Welcome to video number 2 for Chapter 9, the Confederation and the Constitution. There were economic changes during this time period, as the states seized control of the former Crown lands. Land was cheap and easily available, and in America, economic democracy preceded political democracy. The Revolution also stimulated manufacturing. The drawbacks of economic independence were that most British commerce was reserved for loyal parts of the empire, and American ships were now barred from the British and the British West Indies harbors. So the fisheries were disrupted as well. Americans could freely trade with foreign nations, and new commercial outlets, for example, China in 1784, partially compensated for the loss of old ones. War spawned a demoralizing speculation and profiteering. The state governments borrowed more money than they could repay. Runaway inflation ruined many, and the average citizen was worse off financially at the end of the Revolution than when it began. The whole economic and social atmosphere was unhealthy. A newly rich class of profiteers was conspicuous, and once wealthy people became destitute. There were many controversies leading to the Revolution, but these controversies had bred a keen distaste for taxes and encouraged a disrespect for laws in general. The Second Continental Congress that met was little more than a conference of ambassadors. They were totally without constitutional authority, although they asserted some control over military and foreign policy. In all respects, the 13 states were sovereign. They coined money, they raised armies and navies, and they erected tariff barriers. The Articles of Confederation, which was America's first form of government, had been adopted by Congress in 1777, but not ratified by the states until 1781. The chief point of contention was the Western lands. 6 states had no holdings beyond the Allegheny Mountains. 7, especially New York and Virginia, held huge acreage. The land-rich states could use the Trans-Allegheny tracts to pay off their debts. The unanimous approval of the Articles of Confederation by all 13 states was required, but Maryland held out until March of 1781 to get an agreement by New York to surrender its western lands. Congress pledged to dispose of these vast areas for common benefit, and they promised to carve out a number of Republican states, which over time would become admitted to the Union. This pledge was redeemed in the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, which can be seen in the map on 9.1, and the disposal of the western lands helped to encourage the Union. In this map, you can see the concession of the western lands to the United States. Basically, this map shows the original 13 colonies and other areas that were claimed by these colonies in the post-revolutionary period. This is the land that Maryland had demanded be returned to the federal government for distribution, because it itself did not have any access to those areas. The Articles of Confederation provided for loose confederation or a firm league or friendship. 13 independent states were linked together to deal with the common problems such as foreign affairs. Congress was the chief agency, which was the legislative branch, but there was no existing executive branch, and judicial issues were left almost exclusively to the states, so no judicial branch existed as at either. Congress, though dominant, was hobbled. Each state had only one single vote. All important bills required the support of 9 states, which was difficult to get an agreement. Any amendment to the Articles required a unanimous ratification, which made Congress very weak. But it was purposely designed to be weak because the colonists feared having a Congress with great power like they had experienced with the monarchy. There were 2 major weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation. Congress had no power to regulate commerce or trade, and Congress could not enforce its own tax collection. Congress could advise, advocate, and appeal in dealing with the states, but it could not coerce or control them, nor could it act directly upon individuals. The new Congress, with its paper power, was less effective than the Continental Congress had been, yet the Articles were a landmark achievement. As the first written Constitution of the Republic, the Articles were a significant step towards the later Constitution. It outlined the general powers of the national government and kept alive the idea of union and held the states together. Without the Articles, the great leap from the old association of 1774 to the current Constitution would not have been possible. This is a picture of Independence Hall in Philadelphia in 1776. Originally built as a meeting house for the Pennsylvania Colonial Assembly, this building was witness to Washington being given command of the Continental Army, the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and the hammering out of the Constitution.